Okay, great. Hello, everybody. Well, thanks for this opportunity. I'm going to try and be, it's always really hard to do the 8-minute presentation, but I'll give it a go. So this is Elwood. The project I'm presenting to you today is 90 Ruskin Street, Elwood. It's 4 townhouses, so it's quite a small townhouse project. This is the Elwood Canal coming through here. And it's actually an interesting feature because our site is right adjacent to it. And what it was done, it was excavated to drain what was a really large wetland where Elwood was. Our site is a north-facing block surrounded by sort of post-war housing, some really lovely houses, mostly single-story, and then the odd lovely sort of 6-pack walk-up apartment. And some pretty ordinary stuff's been happening along the canal as well. So the existing building had some really lovely characteristics to it. You know, it's got this lovely relationship to the canal, these lovely big trees, and then these textured rendered walls and this sort of brick dado, which we really wanted to pick up on the project. So the brief for us was to do 4 large homes which were designed so people could age in place. So we've actually centered the circulation around the lift. One of the big challenges we had is that we couldn't actually make the main address off the canal, but we did manage to convince council to allow us to have these little staircases and courtyards so we could engage quite positively with the canal. So instead what we did is we created a shared cul-de-sac space where cars and people sort of share the spaces. And on the ground floor we've got a bedroom and a bathroom as well. And then the middle floor, which is where these beautiful trees, you're up among the sort of trunks of the trees. We've got these north-facing terraces, kitchen, living, dining spaces. And then the top floor, different sort of configurations depending if they're bookends or in the middle, but really 2 bedrooms plus a study and then a large bathroom. So here's an axonometric view. We really wanted to make this a project that was sort of engaging differently with all these different sort of situations. So the south, east, west, and north are quite different facades. And we're also really keen to not make it look like a sort of regular row of townhouses. We sort of broke the rhythm up a little bit. So we've got these sort of scallops where we've set back to have those little courtyards facing the canal. And on the south, we've had to step back because there's a single residence there, that sort of shared cul-de-sac, and then skylights in the south to get lighting to the kitchen. So that's the existing building, and then this is what we've built. We used, it was kind of a silly idea, but I called the material palette Silver Fox, and it didn't make it into the marketing, unfortunately, but I really loved the idea of sort of, you know, aging in a sort of dignified way, and that was really the material palette we chose, was these lovely bricks from Kraus, which are made locally, of course, and then spotted gum timber above, and that's all graying off really nicely. We set a dado line where the dimpled brickwork sort of marks actually the flooding line. So there's a 1 in 100 flood, and actually the canal does flood quite often. So I guess I wanted to mark that on the facade of the building. These little sort of scallops that we've created, planter box, and then creepers running up the front facade. And also that idea of sort of engaging quite positively with the canal. So everywhere along the canal, they've put up 1,700 overlooking screens. We really want to do that. So we've got nice clear windows and then these little courtyards and balconies on the top. We've also got on all the north-facing, east and west-facing windows, we've got operable shading. So we've got external operable louvers. It was very important to have a very strong sustainability agenda with this building. The brief was to have all fossil fuel free, but also actually a very large battery array for each of the residences. So they've got a Tesla battery wall on all of them. They've got heat exchanger ventilation systems in all their apartments as well. This is how it engages now around the corner to the laneway, and then this is during a sunny day. So you can really see that we weren't sort of saying, okay, well that's just a laneway, let's kind of ignore it. We really wanted to give a bit of love to each of our facades. We've used this hit and miss and dimpled brickwork, so there's actually windows behind, so at night you get that beautiful glow coming through. And we worked really hard. We had like the best bricky ever. So we've done all these lovely sort of, you know, details. We've got little cuts where it goes from the main facade through to the garden. And then I suppose the main elevation showing the sort of different ways that we've used the brickwork. Now coming towards the street, it sort of steps down to the garden wall and then wraps around with a little sort of terrace there. I included this because I just love the little detail, the dog in the pram. But you can see here we've got this little lantern, which is the staircase that wraps around the lift. And that's what it looks like in the evening. So you've got this lovely kind of glow, and then during the day. And the brick, we also did a sort of very mottled pattern with the brickwork, which is very inspired by the way this sort of trees cast the shadows onto the brick wall. And then the cul-de-sac. And you can see at the back, it's all the spotted gum cladding, actually wraps all the way down. You've got these little nooks where there's front doors, and smooth paving for where you walk, and rough paving for where the cars are. Tesla battery walls and bit of a promo shoot with Tesla there. And then coming into the interiors, I sort of wanted these not to be Scandinavian inspired or any of that kind of rubbish. I wanted these to be Australian interiors. So we used all Australian materials. And colors, you know, colors of gum leaves and sort of the sort of soft sort of greens, beautiful granite. Stepping into the kitchen, you can see that's the southern skylight, bringing light into that, into the kitchen. And then there's a butler's pantry. And then coming through into the living space. So really generous sort of spaces. This is a spotted gum joinery unit that opens up, and there's a jolly little bar to have an afternoon Negroni with a view out to the balcony. We ran the sort of cladding on the underside. And we've also incorporated in some of the townhouses in order to thin up the steel profiles, these X's of steel cross members. And then these little corner balconies on the east and west. And then going up through the apartments, so the master bedroom with sort of windows wrapping around, and you're up in the canopy of the trees at this point.
2 minutes left.
Thank you. And then the bathroom. So I suppose, these are pretty high-end sort of residences. So we were able to, I suppose, almost approach them the way that you might a single residential sort of project with kind of a level of detailing, the sort of materials we were able to choose. And thankfully, the client was on board with the idea of them having a bit more personality than you might normally find in a residential sort of project, which was refreshing as well. And now I'll hand over for questions.